Hi everyone, and welcome back to Music 3A. This is week 2. We're going to talk about beaming for this lecture. Before we get into this, I want to go back a few. And just to review this again, if we're looking at 4/4, for instance, that means that there are 4 quarter notes or rests per measure. And I wrote down here mostly whatever rhythmic value is on the bottom, or the Y value, gets one beat, meaning one click. When I was showing you the metronome, one beat would be one click. So in this case, in 4/4, the quarter note would get one beat. If we look at this slide here, in this first measure of 4/4, there are just 4 quarter notes. So in other words, one note per beat. If I double that and fill the measure with 8 eighth notes, notice here that I've added little flags to these notes to show that they're eighth notes. I wrote down here, this is poor and difficult to read, and the textbook talks about this. It's really, really hard to keep track of all of these notes. It's even hard you have to kind of count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Compare this one to the one in B here. This is much easier to read. Again, we've kind of taken 8 things and chunked them together in groups of 2, 4 groups of 2. It's easier to read. So this one flag is connected together with the next eighth note as just one beam. I wrote letter C up here. This is actually in 4/4 when you have 8 eighth notes. This is the preferred beaming. That may come up. It's not a huge deal. If I were to put 16 16th notes in a measure, again, remembering that there are 4 16th notes per every quarter note. Look how wild this is to read. It's almost impossible. So here, considering that the beat is 1 quarter note, 4 16th notes are grouped together, and you can see that the beats are extremely clear in this example. Okay, so this seems like an easy system, hopefully. Unfortunately, there's a little bit more complication. I wrote here, this is not true with what we call compound meter. So to understand compound meter, we need to actually use this new information that we've learned about beaming, and let's explore this a little bit more. So do read the bit in Open Music Theory. Let me bring this up about beams and borrowed divisions. They talk about what I was just discussing. You can see here, this excerpt here was re-beamed, re-notated, so that the beams show the beats much more clearly. Down near... Okay, goodness, I was just reading through this. This is extraordinarily difficult to understand. As you're going through this section in the Open Music Theory textbook, you can mostly ignore this. It's not very good. Let's go with my system. So I write here, this is a tricky topic. Simple and compound meter is a tricky topic and often confuses people. My trick is hopefully simple. If the top number in the time signature is a multiple of 3, like 6, 9, or 12, as you can see, those are multiples. So 3 times 2, 3 times 3, 3 times 4. and on. We could do 3 times 5, etc. If that is the case, then the meter is called compound. If it's not, the meter is called simple. So 2 different kinds of meter, simple and compound. Let's go to a notation program and I'll demonstrate this a little bit more. Okay, so this is a notation program like the one I showed you in the last video, although this one is free and open source. You can actually download this one from their there we go, from their website. This is a program called MUS Score. As you can see, just click the button and you can download it for free. Oh, I need to pause it. So 3/4 is a simple meter. Again, it's not a multiple of 3 on top, it's just a 3. Let's do one that is a multiple of 3. Let's take a look at this. This is 6/8. Oh God, that really, okay. You would think that this means that the 8th note gets a beat. Not true. So it's not like 3/4. So in 3/4, it means that there are 3/4 notes per measure and that the quarter note gets 1 beat. In 6/8, which is a compound meter, the 8th note does not get the beat. Let's fill this in and see what happens. Let's fill in, I'm going to click on this little thing up here, which means that I'm ready to input notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And the reason I did 3/4 and 6/8, you'll notice that those are obviously related mathematically. So in other words, we have 6/8 notes here. We also have 6/8 notes here, but instead of grouping these 8th notes together into 3 groups of 2, it's grouped into 2 groups of 3. If you remember what a dot does to a note, let me throw in, here's a quarter note, and then this is a dot. Think to yourself how many 8th notes are in this. A quarter note is equal to 2 8th notes. The dot adds 50% of that to the note. So in other words, now this dotted quarter note is equal to 3 8th notes. Let's enter in another one. Okay, so in 6/8, this is a little confusing, but the beat is actually a dotted quarter note. That isn't always the case, but for our class and for our purposes, we can say that that's true. I want to explore just one more concept with this video. If I go here to tempo, tempo, if you remember from the rhythm video, is how fast the clicks are flowing. So I'm going to click here. I'll take note input off. I'm going to highlight this measure. Oh, goodness. Delete some of these. This means that the quarter note is equal to 80 clicks per minute. I can even play that back. If I go up to the playback button here. I'll stop. So the speed or the tempo is 80 beats or 80 clicks per minute. Here, let me click on this note. this one, it may be a little bit hard to see on your screen, but this says a dotted quarter note is equal to 80. Now, that means that the beat is at the level of the dotted quarter note. And again, note how confusing this is. I'm going to post to some other videos to maybe explain this a little better. In my experience in music theory classes, this is one of the trickiest concepts, and I hate that that's always true, but it is. So the eighth note does not get one beat here. The dotted quarter note does. That should be about good. Okay, so this, I admit, was perhaps not the most helpful, but don't worry if you didn't get this right away. Again, simple and compound meter tends to be very difficult at first. We can talk about this in week 3, but I'll also post some other videos for this concept.